Syringe, it says it's preparing to live stream the meeting to YouTube. So you know what you can go ahead and do there.
Yep, doing that.
I'm going to go ahead and mute you for right now, Matt.
Okay.
If you want to say something, just, raise your hand or something. And so let's see here. Joseph, do you want to start? Well, I got to make Sato a host, a co-host. Yes. Joseph, do you want to go ahead and start sharing your screen? All right, so Matt, we're gonna give you the option if you want. Do you want to be clicking through your own slides, or do you just want to tell Joseph to go forward with them? Hold on, you're muted.
Either way, whatever is easiest, I can do it.
Okay.
I'm fine with that. So in order to do that, I think I will just go to present and it'll be pretty straightforward.
Well, yeah, well, what's going to do is I think Joseph will give you control of the screen, and then you'll be able to click on the screen and move forward.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Welcome, Liana.
Hey, Thomas and Liana.
Welcome. So we had a total of, let me look here. Total of, now it's reminding me to get into the meeting. I think a total of 110 people sign up.
Wow.
115. Okay. So we have 112 plus there's 3 people who said they're attending that I did not see on the sign up list. Gary, Simon, Joseph, and Syringe. There's only 1 duplicated sign up on the entire list. So
Nice Hubble desktop photograph.
Hey, Thomas, can you
Yeah.
hear me? This is Liana.
I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me? So I'm going to say,
I can.
we can hear you. Yeah. We're not doing a lot of talking.
Oh, hello.
Yes. Hello. Hey.
Should I be viewing this on YouTube?
Oh, you can watch it here.
Because
Will you?
I can't hear you. For some reason.
Okay. All right. Because the only thing that, Joseph, go back 1 slide. Okay. Yeah. You can go and look at it on YouTube. All right. All right. Well, I'm excited for this.
Is 115 a record?
For a monthly meetup, yes. But we've had other bigger events like showcases. So typically we'll get about 60 or so people registering for a Cleantech Meetup. And then we'll get, 40 or so that show up. And there'll be people that, didn't register but show up and that sort of thing. But with this, everyone who shows up, with the exception of 3 people, would be registering. So I'm watching the registering right now, and I'm very tempted to go in and.
Hello, Thomas.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
I can't hear you. I don't know why that is.
It could have something to do with the speakers on your, or the mic on your laptop. Do
Any
you have
suggestions?
any of these?
Yeah, they're working.
Okay.
Try your sound control.
Now I have you. I can hear you when I take off
Okay, well,
so I guess I'll just do it that way. Is my voice okay?
oh yeah,
Okay, okay, good. I just
Right.
always think that my voice projects better if I have a microphone up to it, but if this is the only way I can hear you, then this is what I'll do.
I can barely hear you, Leanna. Is there
Yeah,
a volume control?
there is. How about now? Is that any better?
Not really.
no. It's probably your headphones either aren't pushed all the way in or something like that.
Okay. I haven't had any problem with other Zoom meetings, so I don't know what's going on.
So I'm leaving people, I guess I'll start admitting people from the waiting room.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
I
can you hear
can't
us?
I still can't hear you. I don't know why that is.
Oh, no.
Okay.
All right. Well, how's everyone's dinner going so far?
Thomas, do you hear me better now?
You hear fine, sound fine to me.
Okay.
You're a little bit quieter than everyone else, but since people will be muted when you talk, it
Yes.
shouldn't be that big of a concern.
Okay, very good. Very good.
And then when we do the final cut of all this, I'll make sure to turn up, your volume on it so that you can be easily heard.
Yes, thank you very much. I don't know why I'm having this problem. It does give me 2 options for selecting the microphone. Do you have any experience with that? Which one might work better? I mean, I can toggle between the 2 and ask you if I.
It sounds like it's a output problem, not a input, because we can hear you just fine when you put the headphones on. It's the other way around.
Right, but I'm concerned about my volume with respect to the audience. You said I'm a little bit quieter than everybody else, but you can still hear me.
You could, when it's, what you might do is just plug yourself in when you introduce
okay.
AgStart, and then we'll get,
Okay.
that'll take care of it.
You could hear me better with the
Yes.
Okay, very good. I'll do that then.
Mhm. All right.
There is on the mute symbol on Zoom, there's
Yeah.
an up arrow, and if you go to audio settings, there's a way to increase the volume of the microphone.
Thank you. I'm looking at that right now. I just increased it. Did that?
Oh, there you go. Now I can hear you fine.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Thank you for that suggestion, Gary. Okay,
Very
now I
good.
can dispense with the headphones completely. Perfect. Thank you so much.
I'm going to go ahead and share their Zoom support there too, if anyone is curious or wanting to learn more about it. I see we've got Meredith Roberts from Sear Energy who's joined us.
Yeah, check your mic, Meredith. Make sure we can hear you.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
You're fine.
Perfect.
We're fine, good. All right, so as people pile in, as we get closer to the And we are live. So if anyone wants to go ahead and share the streaming link with their friends so they can watch, what's going on here and stay in the loop. I just shared it with everyone in the Zoom chat. So yeah, excited for this. Oh man, Michelle Wong. All right, hey, Michelle Wong, you want to test your audio and sound real quick? Hey, Michelle, can you hear us?
Okay, there we go.
Excellent.
All right.
All right, we're still having people coming in. If you, those of you that come in, feel free to raise your hand if you want to say something. We're not going to start until a little bit after, so that way everyone can kind of get the beginning of it. And now the rush is on. And if we start getting close to 90 participants, you're going to see me kind of frantically move to up our Zoom license. But just so everyone knows, we had a total of 115 registered.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so we have a limit, I think, of 100. A lot of people don't actually attend, even though they sign up, since it's free. So
That's true.
we're doing a little social experiment here, Michelle.
It's a high
There's been
quality
a lot of
problem to
those
have.
lately.
Yeah.
All right. And let's see.
Oh, Brian brought an appropriate beverage with him.
It's happy hour, right?
Absolutely. I'm going to give it till about 5 after, and then we will commence.
I've got somebody with a Denver area code phone. We'll have to have them introduce themselves at some point.
Oh,
Yeah, well, we really appreciate everybody signing up for this. I think we are going to set a record. And I've seen Zoom done with more than 100 people before, but it will require a little bit of effort on everybody's part to just make sure that you're recognized if you want to talk when we get to that part of the program. I think most of it at the beginning is just going to be our participant or our speakers talking, and then there's going to be a bit of a panel discussion. So just so that people understand what's coming up. I'm not sure how many we have on here, but it seems like it's
we got 30.
okay.
At 33, we're going to be waiting at least for the professor to join us.
Okay.
I don't see him on it yet.
Hey, Fred, you've got the Grand Canyon or something behind you. Is that real? You're on mute.
Fred, you have to go off of mute first. So unmute.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. I gotta figure this all out myself, Yeah,
Yeah.
just it's a background picture of Sedona from a hotel I stayed in last year.
So you're high tech knowing how to do that. The rest of us just have.
Oh, no, it's on Zoom. It's not high tech. Trust me, Gary. If you,
It's on Zoom. Well.
Oh, yeah. If you go into your video settings, you can add photos.
Okay.
Of your favorite places. I've got every place I've ever been in loaded up, so I can show you Rome or Florence or whatever you want.
All right. Well, you've.
I like this one because it looks good because there's a little barrier behind me, so it kind of looks like I'm actually sitting in an office.
All right. Well, we've got, let's see, I think I saw Professor Zabihan. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to start. We're going to go ahead and start this meeting. And just so you know, we're going to be recording this and turning it into a video. So am I about to learn that I can't start recording when I've taken control of someone's screen? Yep, I am. All right.
All right, there we go.
So we are live on YouTube and we are recording this. First thing, remember to stay on mute if you're not talking. That eliminates background noise. Without further ado, press remote control request. Joseph, you want to give me control?
Hello?
Hello? All right. So welcome to the Greentech Meetup. So the Greentech Meetup comes from the Cleantech Meetup, and this one we're focusing on waste to energy. Now we partnered with AgStart as CleanStart. We've partnered with AgStart to talk about how waste to energy is developing and growing in the state of California. Now some quick agreements for an effective meeting space. Be mindful of, if you're talking, being on the mic, and also be mindful of your mute button. Now here are your Zoom controls. There's your mute right there. If you want to look at participants and raise your hand, you can do that from clicking Manage Participants. And in the chat, you can ask questions that'll be helpful later. Now, I am Thomas Hall, Executive Director of CleanStart. I'm here with Gary Simon, founder and board chair of CleanStart. And for those of you that don't know what CleanStart is, we are a clean tech accelerator in Sacramento that is working to turn Sacramento into a clean tech hub that the world recognizes. And we do that through education, we do that through networking, and getting companies ready to get to that investment level. You should check out cleanstart.org to learn more about what we do. And our Cleantech Meetups and this Greentech Meetup is sponsored by Blue Tech Valley, SMUD, Sac State, and Weintraub Tobin. And I'm going to go and hand it over to Leanna, Program Director of AgStart, to tell you a little bit about AgStart.
Thanks so much, Thomas. Can everybody hear me okay? Good. Well, at first, I want to thank CleanStart for doing all the legwork to set up this Zoom meeting. It's a real pleasure to team up with you for a really exciting and critical topic tonight. I want to acknowledge John Sellup, who's also on the call. He's the president of the Ag Tech Innovation Alliance, which is the nonprofit, which is the parent of the AgStart program. So AgStart is a nonprofit incubator for food tech and ag tech startups in the Sacramento region. We offer education, mentorship, co-working, and connections to growers, potential customers, investors. And we have a beautiful co-working space in downtown Woodland. And one of our big goals, and we've been working on this goal very hard over the last year, is to vastly expand our footprint in Woodland by opening a fully customized shared wet lab for ag, food, and health startups in the region. one of the big issues in our region is we have a lot of exciting technology being spun out of UC Davis and also coming into the region, but we have a real dearth of wet lab space. So I hope to be able to bring you great news about receiving a grant for which we've applied to the federal government, along with some other sponsors that we hope will help cover our costs. And we hope to be able to share that news with you in the future. But check us out. We have a website, agstart.org, and we'd love to hear from you.
All right, thank you very much for that. And we wanted to do a quick kind of icebreaker to get people kind of excited about green tech and the startup world. So what I want people to do is go and find that raise hand button, and I'll call on you, and I want to hear your ideas for what is one word that you associate with the green tech startup world. All right, I'm looking for any hands up out there.
Or just wave at us.
Or just wave, yeah.
Well, I'll add a word, essential. Put that one down.
All right, I'm putting essential in there.
Matt Roberts waved.
I'd say evolving.
Evolving, okay.
All right.
I'm going to say biomass.
Okay.
I'll add sustainability.
Evolving, biomass, sustainability, essential. Do I hear
Frederick,
some?
his hand raised.
Go for
How
it,
about
Frederick.
jobs?
Jobs. I'm gonna add one, profit,
Or economy?
economy.
Okay.
Frederick,
Can-
did you have a chance to say yours?
All right, Frederick, go ahead.
I said biomass.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. he
Oh,
got his
lower
hand.
hand.
Sorry, I'm having a little difficulty with going back and forth on mute.
All right. Professor, you had one?
Education.
Education.
There you
No
go.
surprise there.
What about renewable?
Renewable.
Okay.
Well, how, Chris, how about one from you?
More electrical.
Electrical, and I'll get two more, John and Michelle.
Sustainability.
Got that one.
All right, and John, you had one?
John said sustainability.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Michelle, do you have one?
Future.
Future. All right.
All right, and I'm going to now save this and give us your feedback.
One word. You only get one vote?
One vote, one word, or, well, find out. I'm going to lower people's hands.
Yeah, you only get one. Okay.
All right. They're coming in. All right, well, with 75% reporting, it looks like future and sustainability, a sustainable future. Let's see. Sustainability, people waiting to then to cast their vote so that they can have more of an impact. All right, with 80% voting, I'm going to actually go ahead and end the polling right now. And there you guys go. Share the results and tell people that the green tech startup, the green tech startup world is about the future and sustainability. So thank you all for participating in that. And I'm going to take control back here. All right, so just a quick review of our agenda. We're going to have announcements. Sac State is going to give us an update on their gasifier and the research they're doing there, followed by the presentations by Clean World, Springboard Biodiesel, and Sierra Energy. And then Gary's going to lead a conversation at that time. So if you have questions, please hold them till that conversation portion of it so that everyone gets a chance to share. And without further going on to announcements, CleanStart to-dos. These are short little half-hour talks that we have where we talk about what you can do now to build your clean tech company. Next week, Eric Stokes from the CEC is sharing all the things the CEC is investing in. And later we'll have Tiana Reynolds and Helios Altos. Mike Carroll will be also one of one of the people that we have on it. Additionally, there's office hours by AgStart, which Liana, do you want to give a description of your guys' office hours?
Thank you, Thomas. Yes, briefly, if you are in the ag and food tech space, anywhere along that ag and food value chain, and you are thinking about starting a business or in the midst of one or in the middle of one, we would love to hear from you. What our office hours comprise of is a 1 hour free mentoring service for folks who are new to our organization, and we can connect you to our extensive advisory panel who are experts in all different fields. So with the COVID crisis, we've moved everything to just online phone calls. But we are continuing to schedule these. They are monthly, and signups are, you can either go through our website or search us on Eventbrite.
All right, thank you for that. And the other thing that I'm really excited to announce right now is CleanStart is bringing back our CEO crash course. It's on a little shortened schedule, but applications are due May 20th. I'm sharing a link to these slides in the chat. If you go to those slides, you can click CEO Crash Course and the applications, and you can apply to join our CEO Crash Course. It's 8 classes that are 2 hours through the entire month of June. We've got some really stellar professors and startups that will be coming in, talking to you about how you build a startup and how you operate at that C-level executive. Including we're going to be having from the Carlson Center at Sac State, professors from there. So here's a link to this talk so that you can find it. Startup Sac also
it is
has
free.
its office hours.
Yeah, it is free for the crash course, but it does require a $200 deposit. That's just more or less earnest money. So if you complete all 8 courses, you get your money back. But we do want to keep everybody engaged for the whole course series. And this is one way to, we hope, make that happen without too much pain. So please take a look at the outline and the brochure. The one we did last year was a really great success. And we've got even more curriculum and more guest speakers, more program this time. And now there's no penalty for geography. We did it in Stockton last time, and some people found it a little hard to get to, but now it doesn't matter where you are. So we'll be looking forward to seeing a lot of people at the crash course. We do have a limited number of slots, so it's important if you or a colleague or somebody you know of wants to come, please apply so we can get a look at that, and we're going to have to narrow it down to 2 or 3 dozen, depending on what the companies are. So, and of course, open entirely, John and Leanna, to AgStart companies. So any one of water efficiency, ag tech, clean tech will qualify for the crash course.
All right, thank you, Gary. And then I want to also go on to telling people to stay socially connected. If you go here, you can get on and check out our newsletter of both AgStart and CleanStart. Follow us on LinkedIn, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube channel that CleanStart's been putting up regular content to. And we now have Syringe, who's helping us with Instagram. Also, I want to recognize Startup SAC. Their newsletter is a great resource for startups in the area. And ChicoStart, who they focus on supporting startups in Northern California. And they're the ones who suggested that we actually bring Springboard Biodiesel to present today. And we're glad to have them. All right, and without further ado, I'm going to give control back to Joseph, and Professor Farshid Zabanian will update us on what's happening at Sac State.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me right?
You're good.
Okay. Thank you, Thomas. My name is Farshid Zabian. I'm a faculty at Mechanical Engineering Department at Sac State since 2016. Sorry about ugly background. For some reason, at my desk, I don't get the good Wi-Fi, so I have to sit on the ground. I have presented this project in several occasions in the past few years. Probably you have heard one version of that sometime in the past. I will just quickly go over what we have done and what we are planning to do in near future. So should I? Yeah, so this is a biomass gasifier unit that is connected to an internal combustion engine. In original form, it can produce up to 20 kilowatt power. It's initially purchased by SMUD. They did some experiment and then donated this unit to Sac State. We have been experimenting with the unit in the past 2 years, both from research perspective and educational, to train students on different thing that they can do with the biomass gasification units. So can you move? Yeah, so we in the past at least one of my graduate students worked extensively on conducting experiment on the unit. Baldomero, probably he's somewhere around. We looked at several parameters and how they impact performance of the system. One of the main things that we looked at was the impact of using different types of biomass. We looked at using wood chips and walnut shell and how the performance of the system, including the efficiency, power output, the temperature at different location in the gasifier, the emission evolved. Can you move on? Yeah, is impacted by using these different fuel and changing different parameters during the experiment, including air-fuel ratio. Now, the Baldomero's work is being continued by Eric. He is trying to continue what he did, what Baldomero did in terms of looking at the impact of different parameters on the performance of the system, including temperature at different location in the gasifier, especially reduction zone, and impact of ambient temperature and humidity on the performance. And also he is trying to consider other fuels as well and their the engine system performance using those fuels, and even combination of different fuels, because now if we have time later, Eric and I can talk about what were the problems and how hopefully mixing some fuels can address that. This is one avenue that we have started in the past and we are still continuing. A new avenue that recently we started with Osato, another graduate student, is, can you change the slide, please? Yeah, is through thermodynamic modeling of the gasification system. So Osato is trying to develop a model using equilibrium models, and then using that model, we are trying to predict the composition of the producer gas that the gasifier produces, and then see what are the impact of various parameters on the composition of the produced gas, and then trying to first validate the model with the existing result that we have from the actual system, and then trying to use the model to optimize the performance of the system. So it's kind of goes hand to hand with the experimentation. Experimentation help us to validate the model. The modeling help us to optimize the actual system, looking at several parameters. These were projects that mostly graduate students were involved. Another project that I have been working on by some support from our UEI into the university enterprise was working on the fuel preparation system. Up to this point, several companies, including West Fuel, has been so generous to donate the fuel to us so students can conduct experiment. Now I recruited, actually last semester, I recruited an undergraduate senior mechanical engineering team to build a fuel preparation unit for their senior design project. The system will include the wood chipper, so we can get, the idea is that we can get the wood from university facility, we can chip the wood and then screen it and then dry it in a way that it is good for the gasifier. And the idea is that we can have complete independent power production unit at the campus. And finally, these were all upside of the project. On the downstream of the project, where we have the exhaust, we are trying to use a microalgae to capture the carbon dioxide. And obviously, it is good for the environment to get rid of the greenhouse gas carbon dioxide. And also, production of algae itself is a byproduct, a valuable byproduct that can be used in many projects, in many applications. We started with another project that sponsored by the UEI, with the small grant from UEI. You see the team here. And then my graduate student, Tim Hagen, which I think it's among the audience, took over the project, and he is working on the conducting research on the project as his master thesis. So these were several avenues that my students and I have been engaged under Gasifier itself, and so two different projects that parallel to the system, both on the graduate level and undergraduate level. So as I started with the presentation, the education is a major part of our mission. So it is not just conducting research and adding fresh page to the knowledge, but educating and training students so they can start to work in variety of field in the region. If you have question later on, I can try to answer it. And also, as I said, students are in the audiences. They can jump in and answer the question. Thank you for the time. Bye. Now.
Thank you very much for that. So if you have questions or something that you want to ask, go to the chat. Go and you can ask the question straight through there. Asato, who actually the professor just talked about, that's doing research at Sac State, is also a CleanStart associate. So he's going to be collecting all those questions, so that way Gary has them at the end. So when we have the conversation, your question won't get skipped over. So with so then next, I want to do the next slide. All right, so I would like to welcome. Hold on one second. All right, I would like to welcome Michelle Wong, Chief Executive Officer of Clean World, Under Michelle Wong's leadership, Clean World has emerged as the North American leader in a rapidly growing field of anaerobic digestion. Ms. Wong has also served as the CEO of Synergex International Corporation since 1996. She has grown that company from a 20-employee, one-product firm into an internationally recognized technology innovator with a wide range of products installed in over 50 states and more than 80 nations. And in 2013, Ms. Wong was recognized as the Woman Innovator of the Year by Innovate North State. And now I would like to invite her to do a presentation.
Thank you, Thomas. I guess I need to update my bio. I actually retired my position at Synergex in late 2017. But I am still the CEO of Clean World and am focused on that at this point. So Clean World was founded in 2019 when we licensed a technology that had been developed in the Ag Bioengineering department by a Dr. Ray-Hong Zhang at UC Davis. We licensed that technology and commercialized it. And we built our first full-scale digester in 2011. After that, we designed, built, owned, and operated 2 other digesters. One of those in Sacramento at an old transfer station that's owned by the county, and then the third at UC Davis. Our intention all along really was to be a technology provider. And we found that operating digesters meant that you were not only in the trash business, as well as the technology business, as well as the utility business, all kinds of crazy things. That was definitely not what we signed up for, but it was a great experience. It gave us an opportunity to learn about how they're operated, understand what the needs of the customers would be, et cetera. But we've transferred ownership of all of those facilities at this point, and we're continuing to work on new technologies. I'm going to talk a little bit about the technology that we're working on now a little bit later on. Most recently, we were the technology partner involved with a project in San Bernardino, Organic Energy Solutions. We wrote and were awarded a $5 million CEC grant to help them get that project going. And then we worked as a technology advisor. There was a company up in Oregon, a company named Stellar J, that was a contractor involved in that project, and they just went live at the beginning of this year. Next slide. So just for those of you maybe who don't know what anaerobic digestion was, I thought I'd just go over it real quickly. So anaerobic digestion is very simply the controlled breakdown of organic matter. It's the same process that occurs in your stomach, except it's occurring in tanks. And it in fact is the same process that occurs in composting, except the anaerobic part is that it's being done without any oxygen. And so in the tank, in our process, there's multiple tanks, but in the process, the organic waste is converted into methane. And then that methane can be used to produce electricity. You can put it back into the pipeline. You can create renewable natural gas for vehicles. There are any number of things you can do once you've created the methane. Go ahead. So this is a picture of the anaerobic digester facility that is at UC Davis. And it is now being operated by the utility department at UC Davis. This facility can process about 50 tons a day of waste. And we originally set it up to create electricity. And you can see that there are some microturbines there. They have since converted it to just producing the gas that's being used in one of their boilers to heat the primate center. So what one of the issues, the anaerobic digestion, especially in the food waste industry, has really not taken off as quickly as people expected it to. When the regulatory environment got rich for it, in April of 2017, there was a regulation that went into effect in California that required any large producers of food waste to divert their organic material from the landfill. So there were several people, several companies who built digesters in anticipation of that. And we actually scaled up our digester in Sacramento from 25 tons a day to 100 in anticipation of that. It was effectively a non-event. Those regulations are not being enforced. And because of that, people are not willing to pay to dispose of their waste. So unfortunately, throughout the country, food waste digesters have not fared well. The economics are very difficult. They're very expensive. They rely on people being willing to pay $70 to $150 per ton to bring their waste, which is not unreasonable if people don't have the option of taking it to a landfill. In addition to that, one of the bigger economic issues is that at the end of the process, there's a waste stream, which is a liquid that has a lot of organics still in it and COD. To dispose of that in the sewer is very expensive. The last several months that we were operating the digester at the facility in Sacramento, we were paying about $60,000 a month in sewer fees. You cannot run a digester like that. So we began about 5 years ago a project to develop a technology that would take that effluent from the digester and create a product. And you can see, if you look at these, the 3 vials that are on the screen, the raw digestate is very dark. It's got a lot of material in it. So the process that we've developed, it goes through a filtration process, and then later we clean it up it's a bioammonia is effectively what it is. And you can see on the 3rd vial to the right, it is a clear product. It's very low odor, very low salt content. It's a quick release nitrogen with a lot of value. So we've been working with UC Davis on creating this technology. We ran a pilot with it at our Sacramento facility, and we're working now to develop partners to commercialize it. We believe that solving this wastewater problem is one of the huge keys to making anaerobic digesters for food waste economically viable. You can go ahead. So this is just a 3D model of our fertilizer production system. And we're working, again, putting together the partnerships required to do our first full-scale project.
All right, thank you very much, Michelle. Sorry about the little slide hiccup in there.
No problem.
But thank you for that great rundown. And next up, next slide. Next up, we have Matt Roberts. Matt Roberts is the president of Springboard Biodiesel, which was incorporated in 2008. It's a biodiesel equipment manufacturer that's leading the way in developing vibrant small-scale biodiesel productions. The company has been doing research, enabling institutions and businesses, municipalities, and more to have access to vegetable or animal oils to be able to convert that into premium grade biodiesel. And I'm going to let him take it away and tell you more about how Springboard Biodiesel is, how its network extends to It's 26 countries and all 50 states. Matt?
Thank you, Thomas. And thank you everyone for being on this call. This feels like a great opportunity. And this is just, I'm grateful to be able to share some information about what we do with you all. So yeah, my name is Matt Roberts. I'm the president and one of the co-owners of Springboard Biodiesel. And for about 12 years, we have been making these small scale biodiesel appliances that you can see in this slide. And basically what they do is they convert waste cooking oil into a clean burning fuel called biodiesel, which you can run in any diesel engine. And when a lot of people, I think when a lot of people think about biodiesel, they think about giant plants that, you know, are in Iowa or somewhere in the Midwest that make millions of gallons of biodiesel each year and at great cost from virgin soy oil, canola, and they tend to go out of business once every 3 years if they don't get a federal subsidy. Well, what we've done is we've tried to shrink that plant down into an appliance that's easy to operate and makes fuel at the lowest cost, the lowest possible cost. So yeah, why make biodiesel? First off, it's a lot cleaner than diesel. You know, according to the California Air Resources Board, it is the least carbon intensive of all the liquid fuels. And it emits about 80% less CO2 and 50% less particulate matter than diesel. It's renewable, of course. You make it from a waste stream. It's very easy to start running biodiesel in your diesel engines because there's no retrofit that you have to do to a diesel engine, with some small caveats. But any diesel engine will run on biodiesel and you can mix them at any ratio. So there's a good visual that you can do. I wish I'd set this up better, but if you have a glass of biodiesel and a glass of diesel with some nice backlight and you pour one into the other, whoosh, they mix perfectly. And that's what happens in your engine. So there's no range anxiety. You can go back and forth from one to the other. It's non-toxic, it's non-hazardous. Interestingly enough, it's non-flammable. It's considered combustible because it has that higher flash point. Truck drivers going over the Bay Bridge don't have to placard their trucks. So it's easier to transport according to the DOT. And it burns with less wear. It has better lubricity, a great term, lubricity. So it's actually better for the life of your engine. And last but not least, most importantly, it's cheaper to produce. So if you can collect your used cooking oil for free, you will make biodiesel in California today for $1.06 a gallon. And if we can go to the next slide, I did some basic math here. I drove by a gas station this morning and I saw that diesel was at $2.99 a gallon, unbelievably low, right, with all that's going on right now. But even at that price, every gallon you make, you're going to save $1.94 if you can collect your cooking oil for free. So, you know, our biggest system is on the right. That'll make 275 gallons a day. That's a system that the US military uses in Afghanistan. But you'll save $533 a day and pay for that system in 59 days. So, you know, over your next 200 days of the year, you're going to save over $106,000 in fuel costs and keep 676 tons of CO2 out of the atmosphere if you're burning that in your diesel engines instead of diesel. So that's a big if, right? If you can collect the used cooking oil for free. Well, here's a case study that I mentioned, the the military at Bagram Air Base. They bought a system in May of 2015. And as you can see there, they saved $2.7 million in their first 38 months. Now, keep in mind, of course, they're in Afghanistan, where the price of diesel is astronomical. So it's easy for them to, achieve a complete ROI in 16 days, which is what they did. But still an impressive case study, and that's taxpayer dollars that are getting saved. So that's good. Can you go to the next slide? Another group that it makes tons of sense can make and use biodiesel are schools. We have 99 so far that operate at least one of our machines. Top left is a school of part of the SUNY system. Top right is the University of Costa Rica. Bottom left is the University of Botswana in Gaborone. I was there in early February prior to the COVID pandemic becoming intense, and worked with them. It was a great experience. But it makes so much sense. All those students, all that staff has to be fed. They are already generating the cooking oil. They can take that oil and put it into this machine, auditably reduce their carbon footprints, which a lot of schools are mandating that they do, self-mandating, save money on fuel, and offer this new option for scholarship and research. Next slide, please. So in the interest of saving time, I thought I would just add some other links. Restaurants and breweries are obviously have a great opportunity to do this. That first link, if you look at it later, it's a video of a restaurant owner in Sacramento named Sam Menelakis, and he makes biodiesel for $1 a gallon. He runs it in his Sprinter delivery van. Sierra Nevada Brewery is a brewery here local to Chico. They've been operating a BioPro for 12 years now, I think. Another interesting one is farms, because a lot of farms are producing a vegetable oil, some percentage of which is non-food grade. So they can take that oil and rather than dedicate it to chicken feed or some other use, they can dedicate it to making fuel for their tractors. And the municipalities I think every municipality can do this. We have some great case studies there, but most towns collect trash and recycling once a week. Daphne, Alabama also collects used cooking oil, and they save money in their utility vehicles. And there's some other great case studies there. Next slide. So that's it. I'm keeping it brief. The top link, our website, it's pretty data rich. The second one is a deep dive. If you want to learn a lot about biodiesel quickly there. The second to last one is just a link to that article about CARB affirming that biodiesel is the least carbon intensive of all the liquid fuels. And the last one is a TED Talk done by my brother in Chico a couple years ago. So thank you. If anybody wants to bring this offline, ask questions later, I am happy to talk with you. And if you have a mask, we would love to see you. Come by and visit us, please, in Chico, and we'll give you a tour of the facility. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. You actually got some good questions that we'll pose to you at the end of this. You can look in the Zoom chat and check them out so you're prepared. And next up, slide change. All right, is Meredith Roberts. Some of you might remember Meredith from presenting Sierra Energy at the Cleantech Showcase last year. where they took home, where she took home the top prize. Meredith Roberts is an experienced business manager with a diverse background in sales, logistics, planning, and environmental management. She currently serves as the Director of External Relations at Sierra Energy, where she manages commercial opportunities, grants, and external partnerships. Meredith earned her BS in biology from the University of California at Davis and is an MBA candidate at Davis with an emphasis on finance and strategy. So take it away, Meredith.
Thank you so much, Thomas, for having me. This is a great opportunity. I feel a little in need of connection, especially since we're all kind of movers and constantly, and so it's been really nice to have some of these online platforms. So thanks for providing this for us. And of course, to have all these great speakers, really interesting to hear about your technologies. I will be catching up with all of you individually to learn more. But I wanted to quickly introduce our technology, FastSox Gasification. Again, I work for Sierra Energy. We're based in Davis, California. And we've been in business for about 15 years. Our company has started from a very small scale, working on a very new emerging technology to now a fully implemented system. As you see right here in the slide, that's our actual first plant at a commercial scale at an Army facility here in California. So I'll walk through what the technology is, what the issues are, why we're here, and where we're going in the future. So next slide. Thank you. Just to back up all the way to the top, why we're here, and we've been talking about this a lot, is waste and the issue of just a tremendous order of waste to deal with, a lot of it not being dealt with maybe in the most friendly way or the highest use. And the technology that we're working on obviously is really focused on the waste side. But we also talk a lot about the energy side. So being able to generate a high quality energy product from a variety of waste streams is really an important element. So we're not completely focused on one waste stream. We're really looking at the full picture of waste and how we can address waste on a larger scale. So next slide. And as most of you know, our production of waste is growing very rapidly. By 2025, we will produce 2.2 billion tons. California alone disposes 39 million tons of waste in landfills. That was in 2018. And a lot of this is organic material, and 18% just food waste. Next slide. And of course, where this goes, this drives to methane generation, which is a very powerful greenhouse gas emission. And 16% of the world's greenhouse gases, however, it's about 85 times more potent than CO2. So next slide. Okay, so what is FastSox gasification? This is an updraft gasification system. It's very high heat. It is a unit based on the iron making blast furnace. It converts the solid material to syngas in this vessel. So that's just a pretty broad brush model right here. The waste enters the top. There's oxygen and steam injection from the bottom. And what you have is a syngas is rendered and taken off the top, and a metal and inert slag is coming off the bottom. So we tap that out the end. So we basically have two products that come out of our system. The gas, which can go on to create very useful fuel, liquid fuels and gases to generate energy, as well as the metal and stone out the bottom, which is inert. Because of the high temperature, we're able to actually tap that out and use it for multiple purposes. Again, this reaches about 4,000 degrees, which is very high temperature gasification for a number of different feedstocks, municipal solid waste, all the way through electrical waste to a variety of end products. And that's really the strategy for having this type of technology, is to be able to take very complex waste and convert it into a useful gas that can be then further refined into energy product. So next slide. Okay, some of the questions that we get is, this type of gasification system, yes, it is profitable without subsidy. This is based on the fact that typically you have a waste stream that comes in, you're going to be collecting the tipping fees from that waste stream. And then on the outbound, you're going to have a purchase agreement for your product. And so you don't have in the middle part, which is our core technology, you don't have process emissions. All outputs are saleable, and it's very minimal pre-processing on the front end. And certainly in the future, what we will do is want to scale up our technology. So right now we're at about 50 tons per day for a throughput, and that's the raw MSW going through. And because it's based on the blast furnace, it can scale up to hundreds, even more in terms of throughput. And that's something we'll be looking at in the future. It also has a very low parasitic load. So that's the amount of energy that's used to actually to power the system. We have full syngas recycling that actually takes the syngas that's being generated and then puts it back through the system to power it. And the great part about having this type of technology is that it also complements other technologies that could be on site. So when you look at some of the ones we're talking about, anaerobic digestion, recycling, depacketizing, a lot of these technologies are looking for the same types of products on the back end. And they also may not be able to take some of the complex waste on the front end. So this would be another diversion tool that could be used on a landfill at a primary generator of waste, and be implemented in tandem with these other technologies. Okay, so next slide, please. And then really what this means is that we're able to help close the loop. So as our system can take a variety of waste, maybe waste that's entrained with materials that could go to another type of technology, but it's just too difficult to separate, or there's no source separation. We're able to take that, get the value out of that product without maybe going to multiple trains, and then meeting the carbon negative goals that we have. There's value added from having sustainable technology moving to sustainable products, and that's what we're trying to do with Sierra Energy's fast ox gasification. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of background. Again, I said we've been in business for a while. We did start out very small. We received funding back in between 2009 and 2012. We started to receive funding to do our prototyping. We started out here in Sacramento at the Renewable Energy Testing Center, which some of you may be familiar with. McClellan Air Force Base shut down and became this facility. We were able to rapidly prototype there, and the success of our tests at that site enabled us to receive the second round of funding from the Department of Defense and the California Energy Commission. This was really what powered us to be able to build our first facility. It's what has led us to today having a fully commissioned site that is here in California. So at 2018, we really finished that site, and we started operations in the testing phase there to demonstrate the facility. I do have a couple of quick questions that are rolling in. Just to clarify, we use pure oxygen that we feed into the bottom of the gasifier to feed the system. The steam and pure oxygen are also injected at the base of the gasifier. Okay, next slide. So this is our site. It's at Fort Hunter Liggett, which is in Monterey County, California. This site, we were really intended to develop and demonstrate this in a feasible way, and then verify this is a beneficial way to achieve both security for the US Army and resiliency in our systems. So this was funded by the California Energy Commission on particularly to go to Fischer-Tropsch diesel production, and then by the Department of Defense through their ESTCP program, with the US Army, of course, being our sponsor in our facility. So next slide. Could not have gotten here on our own. There's a lot of talk about partnerships. We worked with a lot of different vendor partners, as well as laboratories and academic partners. UC Davis, of course, is right in our backyard. We worked with them really a lot in tandem to not only go through our rapid prototyping, but also to build the system at Fort Hunter Liggett. and to do our testing and to come up with the best plans. We've been working a lot with them recently on life cycle assessments and other ways to look at the application of this technology in the actual commercial space. Next slide. And then, of course, there's the side that sort of what I do sitting at my desk. I work a lot with collaborators, a lot with our partners, but I also take a lot of inbound calls, a lot of inbound emails, and that they come in from all over the world. And what's striking about this is that they have very different needs. So I have a lot of island communities, a lot of established communities, a lot of generators of waste, different industry plants that maybe have a very specific waste stream that they need to process. They don't have another technology to handle it. And then on the back end, there's a lot of variety in what they want to produce. So our core technology is really more waste agnostic than a lot of other technologies in the space. So we're able to potentially address these issues, especially with very specific needs on the feedstock side. We also, not that it's Sierra Energy's proprietary technology, but there's lots of off-the-shelf technologies to take syngas and then go to a usable product. And so that's where we hope to sort of marry these technologies to be able to provide a full end-to-end platform that can be applied to sites all over the world. So next slide. So we do have a lot of outreach. What we're doing right now is at the facility, we do have some folks who will come down from institutions, academic partners, and defense partners, and they're definitely taking a look at what we're doing. So we're continuing to do outreach and development. We have an R&D facility here in Davis at our Sierra Energy Research Park location. That's really critical in being able to do some rapid prototyping to be able to facilitate changes that we need to do quickly on our system. So as a new technology, as in the phase that we're at with testing and really starting to operate within a good envelope, we want to be able to take things back to serve our laboratory environment and make some changes is unique. And it also, next slide. So what are we doing next? What is this commercialization pathway? As I mentioned, we've had inquiries, we've had visits from people all over the world, almost every single country, near, far, island. And what we're doing right now is we're testing the facility that we have at 400 Liggett. We're gathering all the data. We have done tests on wood waste, and we're going to be transitioning to municipal solid waste. That really is sort of the holy grail. That's what we've intended, complex waste. When we have that information that comes out of the plant, the actual data that comes out of the system, that's what we'll be using to update our models, to go out to our partners, to look for. There is, I'm getting a question, I guess people are having trouble with sound. But there is real value in not only the syngas production and the product that can be generated, but also with that slag material that comes out of the bottom, the metal and the stone material. And so what we'll be doing here in the next several months is with our partners doing research on the application of these end products, as well as the core technology itself. So I think that might be my last slide, and hopefully everyone caught most of what I said and the sound quality wasn't too bad, but happy to answer any questions. We do take visits down at our site, and thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you very much, Meredith. Stay on for a bit because Gary's going to be going through the questions that people submitted through it. And now while Gary gets ready to ask the questions, I'm going to spring another poll on you guys. This one is just about, getting some feedback on who's here, how they heard about it, and what they thought of it. So feel free to go through, it's anonymous, and fill it out while Gary queues up the questions. Also, we're going to have, if you had questions for the Sac State professor, Fashid, he will be asking him those too. I know I have just 3 of them here, but some of you submitted questions for the professor, and I want to make sure he gets a chance to answer them. All right, Gary, are you about ready?
Yeah. I was answering your survey.
Oh.
Wanted to make sure you had at least one respondent on there.
There you go.
Meredith, you got a number of questions on chat, and I'm going to ask you some ones that I had written down, and then we'll cycle back to some of the other people. But you did generate a lot of questions, so take that as a measure of interest in your product. You received funding from Breakthrough Energy Ventures in I think last year, and you were hoping to begin operations more continuously at Fort Hunter Liggett, but now we've got COVID. So what happened there? Did you operate and then have to shut down? Are you still operating the plant at Fort Hunter Liggett, or what?
That's a great question, both of those topics, Gary. Thank you. 5 minutes is really daunting to try and explain a technology like this when I get really excited. And it's been a long time since I've talked to people in face-to-face. So if I missed some things, sorry. Yes, we received last summer a $33 million investment led by Breakthrough Energy Ventures to operate the system, to gather the data that we needed, and then to move into a commercial pathway. We have continued to work on that. We have entered into more stable campaigns, is what we're calling them. So short operational runs. These have been mostly focused on wood waste as a starting point to sort of test the system, get it fully worked out. And then what we're doing now, and right as COVID hit, was when we were transitioning to municipal solid waste. So unfortunately, with shelter in place, we've had to take a step back physically from the plant, and that hasn't stopped us in our preparation work. So what you're going to see here, fingers crossed, as soon as this, we're released from our stay-at-home orders, is that our team will be able to get back on site and start working towards getting into campaign mode again. We are absolutely going towards operating in a much longer, basically in steady state for as long as possible. Our system is designed to operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You actually run risks by turning down the system and cooling it down. It's a refractory line vessel. You want to be careful with your heat up starts and stops. So commercially, the system is meant to stay on. From a design of experiments and from an engineering side, we wanted to make sure we pulled it down to test it, look at it, make sure that it's operating. So it's been a very steady, but it's had to go through a specific way to have that work, where we had to heat it up, cool it down, heat it up and cool it down. So we've been working through our design of experiments, and we will continue to do that until a point, hopefully very soon, that we'll be running full time. It's a very exciting time.
What's your expectation when you run full time as to how long the lining in the gasifier remains? Because there is some erosion in a blast furnace. Have you got any sense of that?
So we obviously, when we planned to start and stop, we knew that this may potentially cause issues, but more, this is in terms of years. So once you start up the system, you can shut down probably once a year to take a look at the refractory lining. You don't have an anticipation that you need to replace it. Refractory lining can withstand quite a bit, especially when you have steady throughput. And that's something that we've been, of course, checking each time, looking to see if there is any issues, any patching, any cracking from the temperature fluctuations. We've had a really good result so far from the lining. So we would anticipate in situ that it would be, anywhere 5 years, several years, that we would expect the refractory line to stay up in steady state.
All right, and the process itself is quite energy intensive, and intentionally so, because that takes away a lot of the difficulties of dealing with highly varied waste that you would get in a municipal waste stream. But you do have energy products that come out, fuels that you sell. So there must be some net energy balance on this that's positive. Do you have any sense of energy in to energy out? What's the percent gain?
Yeah, so we expect our parasitic load would be around 16 to 20% for the plant, full end to end. That's a 50 ton per day system. with much larger systems, you'll have different scale of the for the generator set side. If you were doing electricity, so you'd have a different conversion. But once you do get into steady state and you're out of the startup mode, you'll switch from a primary fuel source to running on syngas, so running on itself, and that helps a lot with that, keeping that parasitic load very low.
All right, well, I guess there's more to be established once you can get into continuous operation, and we all hope you get there as soon as possible. Now, the 400 liter plant, is that a 5 ton per day size?
So the 400 ligate plant, it's actually designed, the vessel is a 20 ton per day vessel, so that's at our first commercial scale. We'll be scaling that up to 50 tons per day for the next systems. The 400 ligate has a huge fluctuation in troop movement. So they go from anywhere from half a ton of waste a day to a couple tons of waste a day. So we actually scaled the full plant down to a maximum of 10 tons per day with a potential 1/10 turn down ratio if we needed to. So we can operate the system anywhere between 1 tons and 10 tons per day.
All right, and then Hugh had a question on, is this a variant of the molten metal technology for some time ago? I don't know whether you're familiar with molten metal technologies for waste destruction, but you literally had a vat of molten metal and you put everything into it to destroy it. I never remember a commercial plant coming out of it. But how would you answer his question on the heritage of this back in the molten metal technology era?
Right. So we don't put a molten metal bed. So we're not related to that technology. We don't have a molten metal bed that we've created. We have a fixed carbon bed that builds at the base that really drives the reactions in the vessel. But it's not, because it's a controlled oxygen environment. It's not burning, it's not incineration, and it's high heat, but we don't have a molten bed that's, we're not using that as the primary generator, if that makes sense. So metal and stone material is about 10% in municipal solid waste is what you see at the end. So it's not the main product. The main product is really the gas. And
you get a slag out the bottom of that melted.
Right. So that's stone. Right. When you tap as most blast furnaces have the tapping at the bottom, and so it's a gravity fed, and that's where the stone material, which is inert and it's a silica matrix, and the metals, and they do self-separate if it's just a bath.
Chris asked a question about how long the lining lasts, and you've given the answer on that. I will remind Chris, blast furnaces have operated at these temperatures for decades, so it's not actually game over, but you do have to keep your eye on that refractory lining that's in the middle of it. That's one of the things I'm sure they're going to check out. So thank you very much, Meredith. We may come back to you with some questions, but I want to sprinkle the presenters with some more of the generosity of the audience here. Let me turn to Michelle. What's the status of the OES project in Southern California now? Are you under construction?
The construction's complete. The initial construction's complete. They began operations at the beginning of this year, and they're waiting still for their interconnection because they're going to be actually feeding the gas into the pipeline. So they're waiting for that, but they're running at a fairly low state right now, and they're doing additional construction because they're scaling it up already.
Oh, all right. So what's the scale of it that is intended either in this phase or the next?
About 200 tons a day.
Okay, decent size.
Yeah.
So that's good. I was also surprised in your introduction. Sounds like you might have been surprised at your introduction too. But it said you've got lots of other products with Clean World around the world. What are some of the other products besides the anaerobic digester? I'll admit my ignorance here.
I think it was that was referring to my role at Synergex. That's why I said I think my bio needs to be updated. We sell software development tools around the world at Synergex. still involved there as a director, but I retired my position as CEO.
All right. Well, we certainly appreciated having you in the community doing all of that. And what happens, you showed us the ugly stuff that came out of the digester, and then it was a little bit cleaner, and then it was that clear liquid, but the solids have to go somewhere. So is that a soil amendment product too, or what happens to that?
So I'm going to answer that question, but I'm also going to try to answer another of the questions that I saw pop up, which was compare and contrast the anaerobic digestion process with the gasification. So yes, there are solids that come from the system because it's a wet process and because food waste is so high in liquid. So most food waste is 8 to at the maximum 20% solids. And so there's really very little solids fibers that come out at the end. Those can be composted, but they can also be land applied. Sometimes people do land application. We had very little of it coming out. We were accepting a lot of waste from dairy processors and food processors. And so we had less than a ton a week of fiber coming out of the system. There are digesters that have more than that, but talking about the digesters and the gasification, they are really very cooperative. And in fact, Mike Hart and I have had conversations, a couple of years ago, we were talking about potentially trying to create an energy park, we called it. Mike really likes that term. And really they would be very synergistic because, for example, when you're doing food waste digestion, if you're taking food waste from restaurants, grocery stores, food processors, so we would depackage all that material, and there's all kinds of cardboard and wet, dirty cardboard and metal and aluminum and all kinds of other things that come out of through that process that could be gasified. The solids that come out of the system could be gasified, and they could definitely be symbiotic in terms of energy usage and parasitic load, et cetera. So and food waste is absolutely way too wet for a gasifier. So it's they are actually very symbiotic.
Well, yeah, Meredith had made note of that too. So you've reinforced your point there, but that's a good one, and I'm sure that's something that Mike would like to see. So thank you very much, Michelle. Let me turn to Matt at Springboard with some of the questions that have come up to him. First of all, Matt, you've mentioned several times if you otherwise have a waste oil, at hand. So there's implication there that it's costly to collect and transport waste oils to a biodigester. But do you have any sense of what the limits of that might be? I'm just thinking of all the oil that all the In-N-Outs and Panda Express, even in this area.
Yeah. It's there's a whole industry that actually collects it in the US and in other countries. They're called the rendering industry or the oil collection industry. And they go around and they have contracts with different restaurants, some with restaurant chains, and they are trying to collect as much of it as possible. Who we mostly work with are groups that, because of what they do, because they are feeding a lot of people and they want to save money on their fuel and make a clean burning fuel, they collect their cooking oil and they put it in our equipment. Now this is small scale by design, of course, and that's how you manage to make the fuel so inexpensively. If you're a school, rather than have a rendering group or an oil collection group come and take the oil out of your dining halls twice a month or whatever, you bring your oil to the chemistry department or the agriculture department, and they can put it in the machine and make a fuel that maybe your physical plant then uses. Somebody else asked in a question, does your business fluctuate with the price of diesel, and is the price of diesels lowering right now, hurting you? And the short answer is, yeah, it's not helping, because when diesel drops down really low, people are obviously less interested in the shrinking savings. But you see, biodiesel on the small scale is not something that is known about. The opportunity is not well understood. So if people were to have a good hard look at the ROI, and look at, some of the technology out there, how easy it is, they will get excited. We're a small company. I'm looking at Sierra Energy and thinking, my goodness, you guys look enormous. We have 5 employees. We don't have the marketing budget to wave the flag very high and do a lot of educating. It takes money and resources. So I was explaining to Thomas earlier, our marketing plan is to basically have a good website and word of mouth a lot of the time, and very strategic, like advertising. But, we wait for people to find out about us who are already interested, and then we meet them halfway. But it's not something that's well known. Not everybody can get access to used cooking oil. So not everybody has the opportunity, but those groups that are feeding a lot of people, they do.
Yeah, no, that sounds like you found some good customers there. Can you comment on your profitability at the scale you are now? Are you able to generate some profits?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no one is getting fabulously wealthy here, but we are doing pretty well. We're keeping our heads down, and we're finding that a lot of our sales are going out internationally right now. And, you look at the price of diesel in different countries, and, Iceland, unbelievable. Some countries like Kuwait, the price of diesel is very low, so there's less interest. But ironically enough, we've got a machine out on the floor right now that we're building that is going to Kuwait, to the Kuwaiti Institute of Science and Research. But a long-winded way of saying we're finding more international sales right now, and that's good.
No, I think that's great news. So at least you found a customer with plenty of money. At least until oil went negative on the short-term market, but that isn't going to last. So you didn't talk much about the technology itself. So are you using an esterification reaction to create the biodiesel with the cooking oil, or something else?
Yeah, so we do a dual reaction in our processors. It does an esterification or an acid reaction followed by a transesterification or a base reaction. And by doing that one after the other, we can convert dirtier oils that have a higher free fatty acid content than what you can do if you just do a base reaction. Our technology is not super sophisticated, but it is very reliable. There's heat, there's agitation. It's all automated with a PLC and solid state electronics. So if anything breaks, it's quite easy to fix. And there's nothing too esoteric or mysterious in there. And, we try and keep it easy. We try and keep it simple. And I have some photographs of some second graders operating the machine. It is pretty straightforward. That's part of the appeal. People don't want making biodiesel to become their second job. Right. They want to sort of set and forget, load it up and turn it on and come back later and be ready to pump it out of the machine into their diesel pickup truck or what have you.
So what alcohols do you use for the esterification reactions?
Any alcohol will work. Most of our customers use methanol only because it's more readily available. And ethanol will work. You need to use slightly more because the molecule is larger. Butanol, all the alcohols, well, I should say most of the alcohols will work, but predominantly it's methanol. And so that's a petroleum-based product. Or it was historically. I think that's changing a little, but we do have equipment also that reclaims any excess methanol. And when you make a batch of biodiesel, let's say you make 100 gallons, you only need about 20 gallons of methanol to produce it.
Yeah, and it's been pretty cheap on the market for some time.
Yeah.
So that contributes to that. Well, let me give a heads up to Larry Buckle that I'm going to call on him. But first, let me turn to John Sellup to see if you have questions you'd like to pose to any of the speakers tonight, John.
No, I'm pleased to see the development that's going on. I've been working with Michelle probably 7 or 8 years ago. We worked together on Clean World. And I followed Sierra Energy through a number of different generations. Rob White was there for some time, and the whole effort that Sierra Energy has been putting in to renovate facilities in Davis. So it's great to see the development as time goes on. Each of these are marching inexorably towards commercialization. And I wish all of the entrepreneurs all the best for success with their approaches.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're glad to see that you're all here, and every company we've talked to, you've been here for a while. So that's a good sign. You're growing roots, and that hopefully will keep you here in the area. And insofar as Springboard Biodiesel goes, you've got 50 people on the screen tonight, Matt, that you may find that you've got some new customers that come out of that.
Hopefully. Yeah, contact me later if you want to discuss further.
Yeah,
all
I think
questions welcome.
His email is on the chat room. Now, I threatened Larry Buckle. Larry, are you on? We'll see whether he unmutes here. Okay. He may, I don't think he left, but we haven't gotten him online here. Let me switch to Brian Hoblet. Brian, the Central Valley Partners invest in a number of projects. Where are you at looking at biomass projects, digestion products, gasifier projects, and companies in terms of investment?
Yeah, so Gary, it's probably a little too early on all those technologies right now. For us, we are boring investors. We invest in manufacturers, distributors of kind of simple things. So very excited about the technologies, very excited about the opportunities. For us as a firm, it's not something that we would probably be interested in at this time, but I'm really interested from Michelle and from Sierra Energy about what is the scalability of both of these technologies? Where can this go? So, gasifiers can be deployed on a municipal level, and digesters can be deployed on a little bit of a smaller level. Would love to know what the opportunity is on both of those.
Yeah.
That's probably a conversation offline given the moment, but it's good to know that the interest is there. And you heard Matt talk about, word of mouth and marketing, getting bigger scale through better marketing on that. And
oh dear.
Uh-oh.
Okay, well,
Uh-oh.
we're talking about managing things like that. Well, we are coming towards the end of the total time that we allotted for this. So if you want to go to the next slide, Joseph. Okay, so I just wanted to quickly give some people some reminders. The CEO crash course is coming up. Applications due May 20th. It's 8 days. It is a free crash course. We do require a deposit just to make sure that people attend. AgStart office hours, May 12th, June 2nd. if you're in the ag field, this is a great place to kick off and get a lot of resources. AgStart is a lot bigger than just what is out there in Woodland. They have a very robust network of people that you connect with. Also, if you're interested in what the CEC is doing, the California Energy Commission, and funding things, check out our to-dos with Eric Stokes next week. If you want to go to the next slide. I want to thank our sponsors again, Blue Tech Valley, Sac State, SMUD, and Weintraub Tobin. Next slide. I also want to give a shout out to AgStart sponsors, Bayer and Bayer, the Economic Development Administration, EY, which is also a sponsor of CleanStart, of our underlying programs, GT Law, and HM Claus. If you're curious about becoming an AgStart sponsor, go ahead and go to their website, and there's ways that you can support them. Next slide. Additional thanks to the CleanStart program sponsors, EY, Stoll Reeves, Moss Adams, and Hacker Lab, and our community of partners. Ones that help us put this one on include AgStart and ChicoStart. It's great to be able to show that we've got a lot of support for entrepreneurs growing in Northern California. Next slide. And I want to thank you all for coming. Please check out the slides. I'll share a link to them again. Sign up for our newsletter, sign up for AgStart's newsletter. Make sure that you follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. We're doing a campaign to make sure that we can reach as many people as possible in the community so that they know there's resources to support their growth in turning Sacramento into a clean tech and the Central Valley into an agricultural hub. I think the Central Valley is probably well known for its agriculture already, though, honestly. And I'm going to quickly share that out. Thank you all for coming. I believe that's actually the last slide that we have here. Yeah, so if you want to stay around and chat, I'm going to be here for a little bit longer. If you want to connect with anyone that jumped off, let me know and I will track them down and make people exchange information. And with that, I'm going to stop the recording.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you, Thomas.
Thanks, Thomas. Well done.
Thank you, Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Thomas, this is one of the best events you guys have ever done. So good job by you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Great job.
I appreciate it.
I missed the pizza, so I had to cook my own.
I got pizza from the regular one we go to, the Buffalo Pizza and Ice Cream over there in off of Broadway. Great pizza there. I recommend if you're in Sacramento, go and try it. It's delicious. And I guess Joseph, you can stop sharing the screen. I'll start sharing my screen. So if you need to get to homework, because we have some Sac State students here that are all adjusting to social distancing. How is everyone that's on the line handling it so far?
I love it.
Actually, these kinds of things and meetings, it's actually been kind of nice not running all over town.
I have a question. So John, I see you're here. You guys had a support class at Weintraub. Do you know how that went today?
What class are you talking about? I'm not sure.
Weintraub, you guys had a getting back to reality class for how to approach. So John is a partner or associate at.
I'm
an associate at Weintraub Tobin, one of CleanStart's sponsors. And they're, of course, a local law firm, and they were giving people employment direction on how to handle going back to, I guess, reality. So that way you do it safely and in a conscientious way. Because as much as we always want to run back and go back to normal, it might not be the best decision for health-wise.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't able to attend that one today, but I mean, as you guys all know, there's new stuff coming out every day, new analysis, and everybody's keeping a very close eye on it. And we are too, especially on that employment front, and some of the business aspects.
Yeah, so when I ordered my pizza, they brought the pizza to me. They were like 10 feet from me, and they looked at me and they set it on the ground and walked away. And like, normally you think that would be bad service, but it's like, okay, I totally get it. Well, they didn't sell it directly on the ground. They set it, there's kind of a pot that I have it's clean and it's raised above the ground. If they put it directly on the ground, I probably would have been a little upset, but it was good pizza.
It's pretty amazing how creative a lot of restaurants are getting now to stay open and stay in business. Doing takeout and opening up a window on one side of the restaurant. Yeah, I kind of like it.
All my favorite restaurants that were not online are now all online. Another fun thing was I've been watching a lot of the gyms. So the gym that I go to is called Eco Fitness. So they have gym equipment that delivers power back to the grid. And watching them adjust and learn in that setting has been it's scary because their entire business model is, that subscription, and the amount of, sweating and people that are not really doing good social safe distancing when you're doing a workout that's just a fact of like how gyms operate. And knocking on wood that they, that all of them make it through it.
How are they putting energy back into the grid, Thomas? Was it from actual treadmill and cycling, recapturing of the power?
Yes.
That's impressive.
They have that, and they also have a treadmill that they can do it on, and their entire bike class is on it. They were trying to work with a Sac State professor on piezoelectric power, which is crystal structures that when compressed create a current. There's a professor at Sac State who's working on making roads with them. And they wanted to say like, okay, we want to make a workout mat that when people drop their weights, it creates energy. And the fact of the matter is there's not as much energy that just because it feels heavy doesn't mean you're generating a lot of power.
Right.
So that, because they actually do sell piezoelectric yoga mats that you can charge your cell phone with, although I think it's charge your cell phone, because I have a hard time believing anyone doing yoga is going to generate that much power.
Maybe if they do goat yoga, it generates more power.
Yeah.
Go straight to your phone chakras.
Yeah, exactly. I was telling him he should get, because they have ropes. I'm like, ropes are a great way to turn kinetic energy into, electrical energy.
Say, Michelle.
They say that necessity is the mother of invention, and I would say I have also been very impressed at how innovative and creative businesses have been, and I think that's going to be the one benefit of this whole situation is some serious disruption, technology disruption.
Mm-hmm. When I was with my last years at Chico State, I was part of their first entrepreneurship kind of staff or group. They're part of their entrepreneurship program, and that was back during the financial crisis collapse. And the thing that we always said is the most exciting time to be alive is when there's the most amount of problems to fix. Mm-hmm. And that, while it might seem really hard to get financing out there, everyone's going to be creating new solutions and the next big thing through these crashes. Now, I think this one's a little bit more, there's going to be more unique things coming out of it because it's not a collapse of the financial system. But it was a great motto to have that made me really kind of like entrepreneurship for that. Mm-hmm.
I think it actually was even a more beneficial time. I mean, if it can be, but in that we were at kind of the top of the economy. And so there's a lot of money out there. So if people are developing new things that are financeable, there's money available to do them.
Yeah, I'm fairly optimistic about what the recovery is going to look like. I know I've talked with a lot of people that are and a lot of people that aren't. So I'm like, I'm optimistic. Matt, you said you had a question, I thought, for a second there.
Michelle, we have an anaerobic digester on the southern edge of town. It used to be owned by North State Rendering.
Oh, yeah.
And they won a grant, I think, from the California Energy Commission for $5 million. They built this giant digester, and I know those guys who work there, but because we bring glycerol byproduct to them, and they welcome it.
Yeah.
And I think it's very good for their process. They're making, I guess it's methane, and trying to make electricity from it, and they're trying to sell that back to PG&E. And they're struggling. PG&E is not demonstrating any interest, or not much, I guess. And anyway, it's just an incredible sight when I go there and I see these big trucks pulling in and emptying these loads of